So this case is an ongoing case, and before I get in with a heavy heart, I would want to say RIP to Rachel Morin, and may her family find the strength to move on from this and get justice if it's what is being reported it could possibly be. Now, Rachel Morin left her home in Bel Air, Maryland, in the United States of America around 6 p.m. on the 5th of August and headed to a popular hiking trail just outside of town. She's a mother of five, and when she failed to return that night, her new boyfriend, by name Richard Tobin, called police at about 11 p.m. to report her missing, and this would kickstart everything that would unfold to this point. The next morning, the 37-year-old mother of five's car was located at the Williams Saint entrance to the Ma and Pa Trail at 1:07 p.m. on Sunday, the 6th of August. A member of the public called 911 to report that he had found a woman's lifeless body near that trail. At this point, the case was going to move from being the case of a possibly missing person to a case of something else, maybe a death by accident, or for fear of the worst, maybe even a possible homicide. Now, at a press conference, Sheriff Gala indicated that on Sunday night, a homicide investigation was underway as they awaited formal identification and cause of death from the medical examiner's office. According to him, evidence retrieved from the crime scene strongly pointed towards a possible foul play. Take note that even at this point, they are yet to establish that this lifeless body of a woman that was found is actually Rachel Morin, although they suspect it strongly that it's her, but then they are waiting for the medical examiner to confirm and also confirm the cause of death. And I think it's in the right place. Sometimes, in as much as certain things seem obvious, it's also important that we don't skip what the processes and procedures require, because there could be exceptions that we might not have thought of. A typical case is the case where a lookalike took the life of her lookalike to fake her own death. If you haven't yet watched that case, it's in my playlist. You can look it up, and it will tell you that some of these things cannot be taken for granted, and rightly so. I appreciate why law enforcement do not take them for granted. Now, he went on to say that while the police are yet to confirm the identity, Miss Morin's sister, Rebecca Morin, confirmed that the family had been informed of a heartbreaking death and that it had been informed to them on a GoFundMe page. This was not an accidental death, and she did not go willingly, and she deserves a funeral worthy of her beauty. And this was what the sister of Morin wrote on the page to raise funds for her burial and provide for her five young children. Going through research on this case, my heart just bled for her five kids. It is bad enough that a life has been lost, but it's so much worse when it's actually the life of a young mother of five young children. That is very unfortunate. Now, on Sunday night, Mr. Tobin, Rachel's boyfriend, took to Facebook to express his innocence, apparently after being the target of online speculations. This is what he wrote. I quote, "I love Rachel. I would never do anything to her. Let the family and I grieve. Yes, I have a past, but I also have 15 months clean and have changed as a person. Please. End of quote. Mr. Tobin, to this point, has not been named as a suspect or accused of any wrongdoing in connection with Miss Morin's death by law enforcement. But then, this is what I need Mr. Tobin to appreciate, and I think this is standard operating procedure of law enforcement, probably across all countries and continents. Mostly, when things like this happen, when a spouse is found in a situation like this, unfortunately, where a life has been lost, be it the male spouse or the female spouse, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, usually the immediate partner is one of the prime suspects, especially if they are in close proximity to each other at the time that it happened or just around the time leading up to when it happened. So it's actually natural that he is going to be a suspect, and it would help him a lot if he is cleared by investigations as not being a possible suspect. That is when he can actually convince people he isn't. This statement he has put out doesn't really address anything or convince anybody, because at this point he could be a suspect. We've seen several cases in that regard, and the people would come out to say all these things or similar things like this and end up being arrested after investigations as being the culprits of the crime. So for me, I think that in as much as it's not comfortable to be at the center of suspicion on an issue like this, he should also appreciate that it is the expectation that he should be a suspect because he is close to her and probably was the last person seen with her. Now, let's get into the details to round up the issue and get into the genesis of everything. So, what we know is that on Sunday morning, law enforcement officials in Maryland issued an urgent plea for information about Miss Morin's whereabouts after she had been declared missing. Now, the Harford County Sheriff's Office indicated that Miss Morin was last seen around 6 p.m. on Saturday, leaving to walk on the Ma and Pa Trail. Now, this is a popular trail that most people go for hikes on, so it wasn't anything out of the normal. Rachel Morin was described as a 5'2", 107 pounds person, and she's a blonde with blue eyes. Well, she's really pretty, I'm sure you can see. Miss Morin had been wearing a blue or black tank top, black sports bra, black spandex shorts, and gray sneakers when she was last sighted. Mr. Tobin informed authorities that his girlfriend's car was at a parking lot at the Williams Saint Trailhead. Authorities acting on this recovered the vehicle on Sunday morning, and it is being processed for evidence. Now, the news got worse when grim feedback came that a body had been discovered by a member of the public near the trail followed a few hours later. According to Sheriff Gala, the authorities believed firmly that the body is Miss Morin, but then they were awaiting official confirmation from the medical examiner's office, like I explained earlier, and I think it's also standard operating procedure. He's quoted as saying, I quote, "I'm not going to go into what physically they observed at the scene, but investigators believe sadly that it's a homicide case." And he went on to add that investigators strongly believe also that the body is Miss Morin. So, like I said, in such instances, they have to rule out all possibilities. And looking at the nature of what they found, although they didn't go into details, at least they came out to specify that it's pointing more towards a possible homicide. Now, the detectives are continuing to work the case as aggressively as possible, and they are going to leave no stone unturned. And I believe that findings are going to come up as the days unfold. When this case first broke, I saw it But I was quiet about it because I was praying that she was actually alive, first of all, and maybe there was a misunderstanding somewhere. That's how come she's not yet been found. But up until a body turned up, although it's yet to be confirmed it's her medically, I think that it's possible, very possible strongly, that it's her. And if it turns out to be her, I'm really going to be very sad. Compared to this, I think I'll take the Carly Russell outcome on any day. Not that I'm trying to justify what Carly Russell did, but I think that if somebody is missing and turns up alive later, it's better than turning up dead, irrespective of whether it was a hoax or not. So it's so unfortunate, but then it has happened. And I'm hoping that if it's a homicide, the police are going to get to the bottom of it and find justice for the family and loved ones, and also for the memory of Rachel Morin. Now, crime scene tape at this time and police cruisers were seen about half a mile into the Ma Empire Trail on this Sunday. Now, Bel Air, the county seat of Harford County, is a town of about 10,000 residents and is located 30 miles north of Baltimore, near the state border with Pennsylvania. It is one of the areas that do not really record high volumes of crimes as compared to some other states. The area has many popular hiking trails, and authorities warned hikers to be on high alert as they continued to investigate Miss Morin's death. And I think this caution is in the right direction because they can't readily even name a suspect, and I don't blame them. These are early days. So it's better everybody stays alert and cautious because it could be anything. It could end up being an accident, although they suspect a homicide. It could actually end up being an accident. It could end up being a homicide. It could even end up being a suicide. No disrespect to the family. I'm just trying to put the analysis out there. Although all these are not seeming as likely as the possibility of a homicide, as police have said. According to the police, they do not have too much violent crime in Harford County, but when one occurs, they prefer to look at it and seek to arrest the people involved and determine whether it was a targeted crime or something else. But in this case, they are unable to determine whether this is what is playing out here. Now, they also urged people not to wear headphones while out on the trail so that they can be more aware of their surroundings, and then also carry a whistle or alert device. Go for walks or runs with friends or families, and not to do so alone, and also to let family members know where they are. I think this is security and safety 101. Don't go hiking alone, especially in places where you don't have other people around. It's better you go in groups. Get a whistle or something with which you can send a signal or a distress call out if you are in any form of trouble or danger. Also, once you put headphones on, especially over both ears, you have deprived yourself the opportunity to hear what is going on around you. And sometimes you might not see something coming, but you could hear something coming. So if you deny yourself that, you are putting yourself at a big disadvantage should something go wrong. I think that all these tips are in the right list, and I'm hoping that the residents will imbibe them. Not just them, but myself. I've taken a cue, and anybody watching this should take a cue. I've always said that my channel is not just to talk about crimes that have happened, but it's also to use as a learning curve so we can learn some tips and tricks from it to also keep ourselves safe and secured, and also for our loved ones as well. Now, he also urged that people report when they see anything suspicious, and requested that people report and share any pieces of information regardless of how insignificant it might seem. I agree with him. Sometimes looking at it alone, certain information seem like, oh, this is nothing, this is insignificant, it's irrelevant to whatever. But that information, when shared with security agencies, could be a very valuable information, which sometimes leads to cases which have even been classified as cold cases being unlocked, because that was the last bit of the puzzle that they needed to crack the code. So it's in the right direction. Now, I think that at this point, we also need to learn a bit more about who Rachel Morin is. This beautiful soul, being a mother of 5 beautiful kids, who is feared lost or dead in this case. Rachel Morin was originally from Dover, New Hampshire, and was a long term resident of Bel Air. She was one of 5 siblings. Now, her sister, by name Rebecca, herself also a mom of 7 children, revealed on a GoFundMe page that the family had been grieving the death of their niece, Lily Beth, to sudden infant death syndrome just a week before this would also occur to Rachel. Her sister had indicated that they were devastated, their hearts were broken, and that their family had been hit with yet another heartbreak after what had happened to Lilibeth. Her sister went on to talk about Rachel Morin going missing on Saturday, and the fact that in less than 24 hours her body has been found by local enforcement, and it's just something that is so heavy, and they needed help through the GoFundMe to give her the burial that she deserves. So indirectly, Rebecca had confirmed that her sister had been found dead. She also went on to talk about the fact that her sister did not have life insurance and therefore appealed for financial assistance to provide for her 5 surviving children. Let me pause here and share some education. I don't know which country you find yourself in, but I think it's important that we take a cue from this, especially if you are watching this as a parent. I think that you may have to consider the possibility of going in for life insurance. We don't see some of these things coming. You don't even know what is going to happen to you tomorrow. And once you have kids, it's important that you put measures in place to help safeguard their future. God forbid, should in case something happen to you and you are no longer around. I'm not blaming Rachel, but I think that it's important we also learn from this. Now, on social media, Rachel Morin posted touching videos, touching photos with her children, selfies at the gym, and spending time with friends. Rachel was so just herself, witty, genuine, brilliant, daring, and headstrong. And her spirit would light up the room, and her smile was also very contagious. This was what her best friend, or one of her best friends by name Claudia Brown, wrote about her in a Facebook post after her death. Now, others also talked about how strong her faith was. So, at this point, you could see that lives had been touched, hearts had been broken by the sudden loss of Rachel Morin. Now, Rachel Morin had worked as a model earlier and appeared on the cover of the OWL magazine, Harvard Community College's student publication, where her brother, John Morin, worked as a technical director. In 2018, she shared photographs from a trip to New Zealand to visit John, who was working then as a photographer in the town of Wakatane. In a post in February, Rachel Morin shared a quote which in hindsight now seems like something that she was putting out as a form of prophecy. And this is what she said in her post. I quote, "Risk can be dangerous, but routine can be deadly. Comfort has killed more dreams than daring ever did." I agree with this quote, and honestly, because I think that it's right on point, but it has become ominous now since she has passed. But then again, I think that people are just trying to attribute a certain level of mystery to this linking it to her passing, but I think we should just wait for the investigation to end, because if you can't establish what actually happened to her, you can't say that this post in itself had anything to do, whether it was a prophecy or whatever. I think they are separate things which are seeming to be sort of spiritually related. Now, Miss Morin also started her own cleaning business by name East Coast Cleaners in 2019. On the 1st of August, Rachel Morin and Mr. Tobin shared news of their relationship on Facebook. And this is what she shared. I quote, "Only started taking pics few weeks ago, but these are a few of my favorites, from the beach to the mountains." And she wrote this along with photos of them as a couple. On Sunday evening, Mr. Tobin took to social media to state his innocence while also making reference to his lengthy criminal rap sheet. What are these criminal rap sheets? Court records show Mr. Tobin has 2 arrests for second-degree assault and separate arrests for violating restraining orders, malicious destruction of property, and drug possession dating back to 2014. Again, Mr. Tobin has also faced charges of being a fugitive from justice, resisting arrest, and disorderly intoxication, according to the Maryland Judiciary Case Search Records. Authorities have not released any information about potential suspects, neither have they also linked Mr. Tobin in any way to the homicide inquiry. Now, with this rap sheet, I think that Mr. Tobin has an uphill battle to climb in clearing himself. I will explain. I've already explained the fact that by virtue of he being the boyfriend alone, it makes him a key suspect, and he would have to be cleared as not being a key suspect by the security agencies in their investigations. But aside that, he having this tall rap sheet even makes him a more likely key suspect, if you get me. Even if he didn't have the rap sheet, by default of his position as a boyfriend, he was a key suspect. And with this rap sheet, he seems more likely to be capable to do it. But then, let's not be quick to judge, because there's also possibility that he has not actually done anything and is not culpable in this, even if it turns out to be a homicide. Some people say that people do not change, others say people change. Let me know where you stand in the comment section. If you think people change, let me know and give me your reasons. If you think people do not change, let me know and give me your reasons. But in this, I think that these are early days and we don't have anything to base on to accuse Tobin as being the key suspect in this. It's possible he could be, it's possible he may be found culpable, but until then, he's innocent. He has actually not even been accused of anything. And the fact that he has this store rap sheet does not necessarily, keyword here being necessarily, does not necessarily mean that he has done this if it turns out to be a homicide. It could be something altogether. And with some criminal cases we've seen in the past, sometimes the obvious isn't actually the fact. There's something else that is yet to be discovered. So at this point, I would advise we all keep our fingers crossed. He's also human. And if it turns out he's innocent, he's also going to be put in a traumatic situation. And it could be possible also that even though he has these rap sheets, he may have actually changed. He may have learned from them and may be doing better. He's talking about having gone 15 months without incident. I don't know how accurate or true that is. That may also not be true. He may have been up to some things in those 15 months, but those things are yet to be found out. But I believe that his life is actually going to be dissected from this point, such that if he's hiding something, the police are going to find out, because, like I said, he is going to be one of the first prime suspects. Now, I mentioned that Rachel had gone for a hike on the Ma and Pa Trail, and I'm sure you may be wondering what this trail is. It's a very popular trail in Bel Air. It's a 6.25 mile trail, and it got its name from the former Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad corridor that ran through the town of Bel Air in Harford County. The track was dismantled in the 1950s and later turned into a heritage trail along the railroad's former route. It consists of a 3.3-mile section through Bel Air and a 1.7-mile segment in neighboring Forest Hill. Now, according to research, the trail is moderately challenging and takes around 2 hours and 25 minutes to complete. So, it is actually a good form of exercise for people who take this hike because it challenges them, it works you out, and it's a popular place that the residents go for hiking at. So, although there have been reported forms of challenges in the past, none has led to deaths like this. So the investigation, like I said, is ongoing. And at this point, anything could be possible. I'm sitting on the fence. It's possible it could be a homicide. It's possible it could be something else. Although her sister is actually reported to have indicated that Rachel Morin did not go willingly. That is a statement that I think has a code in it. What does she mean by she didn't go willingly? She's saying that she didn't exit this life willingly. That may not necessarily also mean somebody exited her. An accident could have exited her. Or is she rather trying to say that she didn't go for the hiking willingly? We are waiting for updates on this case, and I'm following it keenly. And you know, your favorite. As the updates come out, I'm going to bring them to you. But then, until then, RIP to Rachel. May she rest in peace, irrespective of how she left us on this earth. I wish her family the strength to go on in these difficult times, and I'm trusting the authorities to go in depth in their investigations and find justice for her if it's a homicide, and also give the family closure, irrespective of what the findings would be. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Turn on post notifications. I need to see your comments on this. This case is still evolving. What do you think are the angles in this case? Let's have a discussion. What lessons are you also learning from this case? Catch you next time. Stay safe out there.